Welcome to Pink Kink,
where we talk about the pretty, twisted side of kink.
I'm Princess Rara.
And I'm Dara, the Electro Khaleesi.
Whether you are a new kinkster or have years of experience, Pink Kink will help you level up your kink knowledge.
Join us on this journey as we talk about our personal experiences and use the knowledge we've gained over 28 years of being involved in both private and professional aspects of this lifestyle to help you explore every facet of kink.
Get set for an adventure. Not only will you learn and grow, but we promise loads of laughter, turning each episode into a fun party. So fasten your seatbelt and let's get this show started. Pink Kink runs off the generosity of our devoted patrons.
As a patron, you will become a member of our special Discord server, receive some adorable Pink Kink stickers, as well as have access to a monthly behind-the-scenes podcast. Patrons also get discounts at our Etsy shop, Pink Kink Boutique, and our online classes at Pink Kink Institute.
In addition, our impactful and electrifying Pink Kinksters get special audio and video episodes. And finally, patrons at our highest tier will be recognized as producers, both here on the podcast and on our website.
If you would like to become a patron, you can visit us at patreon.com/pinkkinkpodcast or click the link at pinkkinkpodcast.com.
Today's episode is produced by our electrifying Pink Kinksters. Thank you, Jay, Witcherman, Brianna Lynn, Daddy J, Fabe, Embers, Blossom, William P, Claire, Lady Blooding, Naughty and Nice, Butte Pain, Manda Panda, Kat, Stefan, Shadow Phoenix, Voldy, Christopher, Kilted Sir, Brian, May Cry Devil, Ruby Riot, Mistress Velma, Enchanted Sparrow, The Wombat, Impact Hazard, Twitch, The Midnight Girl, Sinful, J21, Daisy If You Do, AK Harley Chick, Violet Rain,
Serenity, Belle, Eric, Lady Affliction, Dr. Dave, Pumpkin Pie, Ms. Tourmaline, S'more, Hacksaw, Wee Mad Beastie, To Be Better For Me, 3 a.m. Thoughts, Forest, BP Bryn, Crash Override, Kinky Bear, Barbie, Navigator Bard, Frost, Sinful and Naughty, Coffee and Chaos, Noir, Haley's Comet, Mr. Pillsbury, Peaches, Mighty Owl, Princess Sassy Pants, Lady and Lex, Chaos Monster, Kristen, Casper, Hazel Page, and Jessica. Yeah, so the other day we had somebody mention in our Discord that we had to watch this show, and Rara and I are like, is it kinky? And they were like, yeah, it absolutely is. It like focuses on different places and, you know, there's all this kinky shit. And we're like, well, that sounds fantastic. And then Rara came up with the bright idea to actually watch it and do an episode on it.
Can't tell if that was sarcasm or not.
Slightly. And it turns out it was not a bright idea, but we're going to get into that. So yes, it was actually sarcasm.
Oh, you know what? It's been a while since I've done this, so I think it's time for my announcer voice.
Oh,
so anyway, yes, the idea was given to us by one of our patrons in our patron Discord server. If you want to be a member of our patron Discord server and have access to Dara and I pretty much any given moment in time, then you can join it at patreon.com/pinkkinkpodcast. For as little as $2 a month, you can join and be a part of our Discord server.
You too can join.
And have access. I could do, wait, there's more, and talk about the other levels, but I won't. Because there were 6 episodes here, and I didn't count how many pages of notes I have, but I have a lot.
I have less than 1 page.
I don't. I have tons of pages.
You know what? This tracks, though. This is pretty
this
much
is us.
This is the huge.
So this is a show on Netflix called Risqué Business.
Risqué Business.
Risqué Business. Sorry, it was
Risqué
all risky.
Business is Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Risqué Business, and they have different places that these 2 men have gone to. Where I've only watched season 1, so I can't tell you how similar it is going to be in the other ones, and we won't necessarily watch and report on it unless you guys come back to us and say, wow, this was really cool, do this again, because we just won't. But I'm going to attempt to say these names. I even went so far as to do the Google Translate and press the little button that I'm like, how do you say this?
Go for it.
Ready? So no laughing at my pronunciation, people. So we have Shin Dong Up. Listen, that's we're not going to do anything. And Sung Si Kyung.
Sorry, Dong. I got to say it.
I know. I thought that was kind of funny.
For a sex show?
Yeah. One of them is a comedian. And please, I don't remember which one. and I don't think it's in my notes.
The one without the glasses.
Well, yes, but that doesn't help them.
Yeah.
And one is a singer. They are Korean, obviously South Korean folks.
Well, okay, but one of them speaks fluent Japanese because they were acting as translator.
Yes, one learned Japanese, and the series is they go to different locations and they're reporting on basically sex-related topics. So the first season, they go to Japan, which I was utterly fascinated with the relationship the Japanese have with sex versus America. Let me tell you, folks, for those of our American listeners, we are so fucking repressed when it comes to sex. It's not even funny.
Holy prudes, Batman. Like, it is so bad.
And this show just like showcased it. It's unbelievable. But before we get into more specifics, let me just tell you. So the show casually explores, and this is from Netflix's information, different areas of the adult entertainment industry, like sex toys, adult videos, host clubs, and general perspectives about dating and sex in the country. This particular season came out in April of 2023, I believe. And the show has faced some backlash because of its content, specifically around episodes around the adult film stars, which is interesting because those are my favorite episodes.
I was going to say, backlash where exactly?
Well, they say that the show failed to include the dark side of the pornography business.
Do they need to?
Such as the exploitation of minors and vulnerable persons. The producers have come out and said, well, their intent really was not to be a documentary where they talked about that side, but just to simply share different perspectives of the adult entertainment industry in a less serious manner. I mean, this one guy...
Well, they did a good job. It wasn't serious at all.
No, this one guy is a comedian. So you can't put a comedian on basically a documentary.
And you notice how they did a lot of the graphics that were very Korean TV show kind of thing?
Well, the graphics of like their minds being blown,
yes.
which got blown a lot.
Yes.
Right? So one of the producers said, we thought about not touching the topic of adult videos, which, by the way, get called AVs. So if you hear us referring to AVs, that's the translation, adult videos. But considering the size of the AV industry in Japan, the producer felt it didn't feel right to not talk about it. We wanted to share things like what AV actors do, how they approach their work, their own attitudes toward the job, what drew them into the business, and how their friends and family see them. And we wanted to do it in a not so serious tone. Adding that there are always positive and negative sides to every business, the producer emphasized that this show is the type of variety show genre, not a documentary or investigative work. So they felt it would be inappropriate to delve into the darker sides of the industry.
You can do a different kind of documentary for that. You don't necessarily need everything to be only the dark side of this and the dark side of that. That's not fun.
Yeah. So this is a quote from the producer. Due to the size of the industry, there's going to be a dark side. But as it is a variety show, we made it with a series of interviews focusing on each guest. The actors talk about their struggles, like how their parents were against their job. And one says how he can't explain his job to his child and so on. So it feels unfortunate that people judge that we only show the bright side and none of the dark side. And he also talked about the fact that making AVs is illegal in Korea, but we wanted to see how they make them in the countries where it's illegal. Where it's legal. And it's not about what's right or wrong. But we wanted to make a show that lets us think about where it started. And so I was really, to me, that was the most fascinating parts out of all of this.
I actually really like that.
So episode 1, they started off, I loved this. They start off, the two guys are walking down the street, they're talking, and they meet 2 drag queens.
Can I start off this part here?
Yeah.
I could barely get through that. For days, I think I would watch maybe 5 minutes at a time, get severely motion sick, and have to stop.
Well, they literally had 3 different camera angles filming this. A camera angle from each of the 2 hosts.
On like a GoPro stick.
Right, on a GoPro stick. And then the actual official cameraman.
Yeah. And they kept switching back and forth. And the one guy, the comedian, kept holding his, like, here, I can actually...
Looking up. It's my favorite, looking up his nose. He was doing
this, and it was just all the way up his nose, and you could see nose hairs. And I'm just like, please. Obviously, you're not a camera person, but you could at least put a little fucking effort into that.
Well, that's what he did, little effort.
Very little. But I got so motion sick watching this, I had to skip. Like I was skipping 10 seconds at a time, just going, please get through, please get through, please get through.
Yeah, I was fascinated. Obviously, I believe they were in Tokyo.
Yes.
I was fascinated by the buildings and the lights. I mean, Tokyo is, it's like being in Manhattan. It's all tall buildings, tons and tons of lights. The people, like at one point they showed from
situation
the billboard situation, the amount of people crossing the street was insane. But they came upon, now they act like this was accidental. I find this hard to believe this was an accident.
It wasn't.
They came upon 2 drag queens who identified as, one was Seresta Grown, who says that they are the tallest Japanese drag queen. And the other one was Kato Ago Missile, who was the second tallest Japanese drag queen. And when they were tall, these people, I was constantly asking my Alexa to translate centimeters into feet and inches and yen into dollars.
They were like at least 7 feet tall, right?
6'8".
With the boots on, though.
Without their boots on.
Oh, shit.
That's the whole point. They're 6'8" naturally, and then they're putting on easily 5-6 inch heeled boots.
Yep. So definitely, because that's what I was saying. They looked over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
In the boots.
And at one point, what I thought was really funny is the host apologized for staring at their crotches.
Yep.
Which I understand some people might take offense, but I totally get it. I was looking too, because their ability to tuck
there was nothing to look at.
Fascinating.
There was nothing to look at.
But that's what I was looking at, that there was nothing.
I kept trying to look at the tits because it was so seamless. It had to be like a full prosthetic, like from neck down, and the thing here, wherever the prosthetic was hidden, was covered by a necklace. I kept looking for that.
Yeah, I was looking going, I didn't see one bump, bulge, nothing.
Not even a seam.
No.
It was impressive.
Like, it's so fucking impressive. And I mean, the conversation was really cute. I was really fascinated by the fact that they go back and forth between like Japanese words and some English words, as if there's no
actual translation.
There's no Japanese word for those things. Like even the word drag queen, I think I heard them actually use the words in English, drag queen.
Well, that happens, honestly, that happens in Spanish too. Like if you're multilingual and you know certain words, like I'll say cajones instead of balls sometimes. But I know that sometimes in Spanish, when I hear other people, they use the English words instead of the Spanish words. So like it just kind of depends.
And this sounds really weird, but I forget that, like, I really was fascinated by the fact that despite the fact that they're all geographically in my head together, because they're over there.
Anywhere past California is over there.
Well, because it's like you've got Europe and then you've got Asia. So Asia's just this one big thing. So like I was like going, the fact that the one Korean didn't speak Japanese, the Japanese didn't speak Korean. I was like going, because I know in America we're awful about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're
right next to Mexico, and most of us don't speak Spanish.
No, I thought they were better over there about speaking multiple languages.
Europe is not necessarily any place else.
No. But so they started off. They then went into, after the conversation with the drag queens. They went to a 4-story building. That was an adult store.
Okay.
4-story building. That was a sex store.
These 2 fucking nerds. Really, I was secondhand embarrassed by them in this store.
Secondhand embarrassed by them in several places.
In all
more
of it,
so by the comedian
mostly,
than the singer. I felt like the singer was more respectful than the comedian.
Yes, the comedian. It almost felt like the comedian was doing shit like that to be funny.
Well, he thought he was being funny.
He thought he was. But this, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you can't possibly think this is... No. But every 2 seconds, oh. I was like, enough. Enough, dude. But, okay, so here's my second bitch fest about this. There was a lot. With the GoPros, everything was just swinging around again. Like, and then they acted like they'd never been in a porn store before. Like ever in their entire life.
Well, they might not have been. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been in a porn store myself.
Yes, you have.
Not like this level.
Okay, but I was going to say we went to comfort zone.
Yeah, but I
Am I spoiled because my first porn store was at least 3 stories?
maybe.
Okay, well, I guess I'm spoiled, but it was like
there's a lot of talk about the fact that this stuff doesn't happen in Korea.
That's true. It is slightly illegal, but it was like all I could picture was 2 like 15-year-old nerdlets.
They totally
running around a porn store. And
The
it was like they were
anal lube.
having a sexual resurgence.
They were thrown by anal lube.
Yes. Oh my God. And they kept touching things. I was like, oh no, please. Which is why if you ever go to a porn store, please wash everything and sanitize it before you use it. Because you never know where people's hands have been.
I was going to say, don't buy anything unless it's packaged that has not been opened up yet.
Oh my God. They touched everything. And the part where they were just making all the penises go whoop, whoop, whoop,
Okay,
whoop, whoop,
I might
whoop, whoop, whoop.
I might do something like that too, because that was funny with all the penises waving as they turned them. Sorry, that I would have brought out my childish side too, and I would have just
Remind me not to go to a porn store with you.
Okay, I didn't know we had plans, but okay, fine. I loved the fact that they had up on the wall 48 Japanese sex style pictures.
Oh my God, that's the part that I couldn't take. They just got stuck there for 10 fucking minutes.
I thought that was the funniest thing, watching them try to figure out how you would even get into those positions. As somebody who has looked at the Kama Sutra, I have done that, where I'm like, how? Like, how does the body bend in that way?
I just accept I am not flexible. And I haven't been flexible like that since I was probably 9 or 10. So I don't even bother.
Yeah, no, I would have been just like them, standing there staring, going, how? Huh?
As you are the visual person,
Yes.
I would have been bored out of my fucking mind.
No.
They just stood on the stairs for 10 straight minutes. I was like,
I'm impressed it was only 10 minutes. I would have stayed longer.
I would have been, I would have left you on the stairs.
Those stairs are so narrow.
Yeah,
So I don't think you could stay that long because you'd block the way.
I was so bored. I skipped it. I skipped most of it.
I do love, though, that, like, so they talked to an employee who said that before she sells the wands, she has tried all of them so that she can speak intelligently on the different wands. I'm like, I need this job.
Yeah, no, you'd make a
I'm
fantastic
sorry, you're masturbating?
porn store
no,
owner.
I'm doing research. It's talk about the ultimate for science.
Well, there was a couple of people in later episodes that we could talk about that had jobs like that.
Yeah. Oh, the one guy who masturbated like 6,000 times.
He has tried 6,000 of the company's products, but he said that he hasn't gotten any bonuses for doing that.
I think for me, what bothered me most, and certain episodes.
Oh my God, Rara, do you know what? If you had that job, you know what you could tell people?
What?
You're in research and development.
There we go. Listen, I joke my daughter's going into cybersecurity, into something called what they call in the biz pen testing, which stands for penetrative testing. I love to just tell people my daughter's going into testing, penetrative testing. And she hates when I do that, which just makes me want to do it some more. Anyway, this was one of the areas that I had problems with. These guys were obviously clueless and uncomfortable and handled it the way I would expect a teenage boy to handle it.
It was 2 15-year-old boys.
With dumb jokes.
Immaturity.
And I don't...
The fucking hand.
The golden finger?
This one.
Yes.
The rubber hand. And they were going, what do you do with that? Well, obviously it's not for you, dumbass.
No, it's... for those who can't see what Dar's demonstrating, it's the 2-finger thing to try to...
It's a G-spot.
Yeah.
To hit the G-spot. You just shove the hand up in there and you use the 2-finger things to hit the G-spot.
You wave like a come over. Yeah.
And like these idiots made the hand have a voice.
Yeah. They were children. 2 teenage. I think that's perfect. The 2 15-year-old boys.
First time in a porn store.
But what I thought was interesting is that the singer, though, like he seemed to be he embarrassed by just about everything. One of my favorite things is when the singer was the one who was the translator. Mm-hmm. And
Glasses. That's what I called him.
I would love when the comedian would say something and the singer was just looking and going, I hate that you're making me translate.
Well, did you notice in some of them he didn't translate exactly and he made it a little more
mature?
Yeah. He would replace some of the words.
Which was funny because the singer was the younger of the two, obviously.
By a lot. The comedian was not funny.
No.
By I guess whatever standards, American or just personally me.
Well, that's what I'd be curious to know, is being that obviously we have to judge it as an American because we are American.
Mm-hmm.
Was he funny to other cultures watching, and it's just us that didn't find him so funny? Would he be funny to vanillas who are not as comfortable talking about sex as we are?
Probably not.
I don't know.
You know what? Why don't we ask our resident Korean if that's typical for a Korean TV show?
Well, assuming he watches Korean TV shows.
I think he does.
All right, I'll leave that in your capable hands.
Okay.
What I did find interesting, so they met a woman who was looking for a specific dildo for a male friend that the male friend would then use with the girlfriend. And apparently he wasn't in Japan, so he didn't have access to this. So she was shopping. And what to me was, I was dumbfounded by and almost saddened was, at first they couldn't understand why a guy would need to buy a dildo.
Well, there's a couple reasons. Could use it on the girlfriend like this one. Or could use it on themselves.
Yes, there is
because
anal sex, people.
Males have holes too.
Yes.
And males can also have orgasms from that hole. So just saying.
Then they went to then they moved on to other floors, and we discovered that the men can only go onto the third and fourth floor. Men only can go. Men only can go into the third and fourth floor, which again doesn't address non-binary or
women
or
where was the women only floor?
Yeah.
Men had 2 whole fucking floors.
Yeah.
0 floors for women.
Right.
And if you're non-binary, do you go by whatever gender you were assigned at birth in order to do that?
Yeah.
Like, why? The misogyny is real.
Well, and especially because they explained why. It's quote unquote, so the men can shop freely. Why do they get to shop freely?
Women have to shop online, apparently.
It was very misogynistic.
It was.
And that bothered me.
2 whole floors.
Right? Especially coming from something as open as a sex fucking store. Like, you would think that you're an adult store selling sexual toys. Could you not be a little less misogynistic and a little more open-minded?
And honestly, if you had a women-only floor so that women could shop freely, that I could understand even better. Like, but here's the thing. If you're going to do an only floor, have 1 for men and 1 for women.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give men 2.
Yeah.
Greedy little shits.
Yeah. And so they had in there the male masturbator, as they called it, which there's in another episode that we'll get into about masturbation. Really fascinating stuff.
So I know which one you're talking about. Yes.
They did have what they called a BDSM and fetish section. And my notes are interesting in there because they did ask the employee, what were the most popular recommendations? And they came up with the metal handcuffs as number 1.
Which all good BDSMers know is not the safest choice.
Right? Like, if you said to me, recommend something for BDSM and fetish, I don't know that something as simple as handcuffs. I was using handcuffs long before I ever knew about BDSM or that I was kinky.
That's one of those things that vanilla people use to be kinky, but we're like, yeah, that's not kinky, honey.
Right. No.
That's a teeny bit of
spice. I feel about
spice.
anal when people are like, oh, yeah, I'm kinky. I do anal.
Really? Well, I mean, there's kinky people that don't do anal. So, like,
yo, me.
Ha.
And then, but the second recommendation was one of those like collar headpieces that had the nose hooks,
which is like extremely kinky,
right? Like those were opposite ends of the spectrum.
I have seen that exactly 1 time.
I have seen those at Crucible occasionally.
I saw it at Winter Fire.
Yeah, I saw it there.
My friend was wearing it, and because her scene was being a pig, a piggy. So that's the only time I've ever actually seen it in use. That one's extreme to me.
That one you see in the porn all the time. That's a big one. The nose hooks. You don't see that? See,
no.
I watch BDSM porn.
I watch different kinds of porn than you.
Yeah, I watch BDSM porn.
Well, I watch like fisting porn and stuff. I'm not necessarily watching that.
But and again, when we talk about anal, right? The comedian couldn't quite get his head wrapped around the whole concept of anal. Like that just
the comedian.
blew his mind.
This was the wrong choice to have this person because he was really vanilla.
And really uncomfortable with a lot of this. And then because he was uncomfortable, he made immature, childish jokes.
And it actually came up later that he hadn't masturbated in 17 years.
Which I don't.
Years. And the other guy was like, yeah, for me, it's been like 17 hours.
Yeah. I don't know that I believe him.
He was the wrong choice for a show like this.
Next up, they went to what they called the DVD rooms, which was fascinating, where you go in, you rent a small little room, and it was a tiny little room.
And everything was pixelated.
And AV. And they talked about how workers would take breaks during their work day. Like maybe that was their lunch break to go over and rent one of these rooms.
It was research and development so that they could be better salespeople, obviously.
Maybe. You could stay overnight. They had the ability, they would be food. You could get your clothes washed, stay overnight. They were surprised by how normal everybody seemed who was going into that area. And yet, when they interviewed people in that area, all those people wanted their face not shown.
Mm-hmm.
Versus everybody who was shopping for the sex toys had no problem with their face showing. And there were 75 of these DVD rooms.
Yeah, well, I think some of them were VR, right?
Some of them were VR.
And I think they tried a VR, not just a video, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's that because he was wearing the goggles, so that was
But that was the first episode. And
they kept zeroing in on his crotch like there was supposed to be anything.
That's true. Well, again, because they were trying to make this like a comedy variety thing. I think they were trying too hard for that.
Yeah, it was a lot of extra.
Now, so this was our first episode. Not setting exactly the best tone for this. Certainly upset Dara very, very much.
I was so nauseous, dude. I barely got through it.
And I was very bothered by the blasé attitude and what I considered the disrespect from them. But I'm mama didn't raise no quitter. So I went on to episode 2 and things got much better.
Exceptionally, but
3, and I have to admit 3 and 5 were my favorites. I found them the most interesting.
I liked 4 the best.
Yeah.
At the store or the
Tenga.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite.
So episode 2 was about, they started getting into the stars of adult videos. And specifically in episode 2, they had 3 of the female stars.
Who I will call white, red, and pink.
Because that was their hair color?
No, that's what they were wearing. That was their dresses.
Yeah, I think it was blonde, brunette.
And redhead.
No,
it was
pink hair. I think she had pink hair.
The one wearing
blonde.
White had kind of pinky copper hair.
Yeah.
Then there was the brunette, and then there was the blonde.
Okay. Now, I will say when I first saw these 3 women, my initial reactions were, 1, they were beautiful. They were beautiful. And 2, they look so young.
But they're not.
They're probably not as young as they looked.
No, they're not because of how many years they said they've been doing it. Yeah. They're not young.
What I thought was interesting is they were talking about what their specialty is when it comes to AV.
That one was funny.
And one was comedy AV. And the other one was in what she called the slender category because she has small breasts.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole category for that.
But she said something about, but she uses her ass to her advantage instead. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That was actually, they were very forthcoming. I did appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that they kept, because this is something I would totally do. When they noticed that the comedian was uncomfortable, they worked hard to make him even more uncomfortable.
They did have a lot of fun with that.
And to me, that was perfection. I mean, he even at one point, he said, I've watched your work and I'm impressed with your acting, given the circumstances. And I love, one of the actresses turned to him and said, did you come? Did you come watching it?
Oh.
And I was like, I love you. Chef's kiss.
She didn't even hesitate either.
No. They talked about their attitude, what made them do this. And I thought this was interesting. One woman was saying, she says, look, you have desires in life. You eat to satiate. You sleep to stay healthy. And then you resolve your sexual desires to feel comfortable and satisfied. And that their job as AV actresses is to help fill that particular job. And it's a very special job to help you.
I did put in my notes that she actually seemed a lot more knowledgeable about the industry as a whole. And
The middle one, right?
The one wearing white.
I don't
The
remember
first
their.
one.
I remember their faces, not their clothes.
The first one with the kind of copper hair.
Yeah.
She was very knowledgeable, and she was giving a lot more insight into the industry than the other two were.
Yeah, I really got the impression that and
you know what I thought the most interesting thing about the three of them? The one in white was wearing a very conservative dress.
Yeah. They were viewing this as a career, not just as a job to make some quick money.
Right.
It meant something to them. They felt it was special. And if they were going to do this, they were going to do it properly and right. And apparently, at least in Japan, AVs are huge. Like they talk in the next episode about like how many AVs get made.
Yes.
But she talked about the fact that one AV company in particular, every month has 100 women audition.
And I think they said only 5 make it through.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was absolutely fascinating about this was they talked about how, I don't remember the exact count of how many rooms there were, like different sets. They had the doctor's office set. They had
the hospital,
the
sauna,
the pool. They had all these different sets, the library, which are very generic looking, right? Specifically very generic looking. And I'm sure they bring in other things to dress up the set. They rent those out to non-AV things. If you watch they called it a drama, but it's the equivalent of our soap operas.
Yeah.
And they would rent those spaces out if the studio for the drama needed a scene, but they don't have one in their own studio. So like character from the drama has to go to the hospital, they'll rent out.
I know. I love it. They were talking about, I fucked there. I fucked
on that chair that you're sitting on. And the poor comedian
that was the best.
Jumped up immediately, like fucking A, like thinking there was going to be semen on the chair or something.
Yeah.
Like he panicked.
I loved it. That was the best. So they talked about like the different rules, how they actually have to sign a consent form before each photo shoot or film shoot, that they are subjected to monthly STD tests. And then this one I found fascinating, that there's a strict hierarchy.
Yeah, that I thought was really interesting.
That the actresses are the most important. They matter the most, which they talk about hierarchy in the next episode too. And it's really...
But that one's hierarchy between the actors.
Yeah. But even they admit in that one that the women come first.
Yep.
And that was fascinating to me. Then the next part, they talked about the fact that even though they do these AV shoots, they still masturbate before going to sleep because it helps them sleep better. And I'm like, thank you. That's all I'm fucking saying, people.
I like the one girl in the pink with the blonde one. And she says, yeah, I masturbate thinking about the scene that I just did. And the guys were like, what?
I was like, that's all I've been saying for years.
I did that last night. I couldn't sleep last night, so I masturbated, and then I was just like, oh, good night.
Yeah. I've done that where sometimes I'll like be laying and it takes me forever to go to sleep, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to masturbate tonight. Okay. And go back. Then they start talking about the virtual reality ones.
Yeah, they said that those were actually the most difficult to film.
Yeah. And I would imagine, I can't even think how, like...
I kind of feel like, yeah, that sounds accurate.
And they demonstrated that on with the comedian who got uncomfortable, which made them love it even more and made me cheer them on.
Those girls were absolute fucking sadists.
I love listening to them. They were so obviously intelligent, well-versed. They talked about how, the one talked about how she talked about practicing trying to squirt, and she needed somebody to watch her. So she asked her sister to watch her because she needed to learn how to squirt in front of somebody.
Yeah, they were very open.
I loved it. I want to have that kind of relationship. Well, I kind of do, where you just talk about your sex life and it's no big whoop. Like, it's sex. People fucking have sex.
I was going to say, we do that all the time.
Oh, especially me. I am very, very vocal about, I don't necessarily care if I'm on the podcast or not. I will talk about it. I also very much appreciated, one of them specifically said, AVs are fantasies and should not be considered textbooks for having sex.
I wish American dudes would fucking get that. Remember we did an episode 2 episodes ago now
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from the listening of this particular podcast where we were talking about this guy who forced his girlfriend's head down on his dick for a BJ and she threw up. That's from fucking porn. It is not to be taken seriously, people.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, I've got so much to say when we get to the male AV actors part about this.
Okay. I love that part. That was one of my favorites.
To that one?
Almost. So they also talked about how they got into it. And it was interesting where one of the women said she just always wanted to do this. Like that was her career goal. The middle one was interesting. She had been approached multiple times by the CEO of one of the AV production companies.
Because she's a knockout.
Fucking gorgeous.
Like more than the other two. Jesus.
It's different. The other two, the middle one, how do I describe her?
The one in red? The slender one with the small
dark
boobs.
hair. Yeah. Classic.
Yes.
Very classic beauty.
Even her dress. It was a, I guess you could call it a clubbing dress.
Yeah.
But it was, it was one shoulder with a little ruffles and it was just, man, did she work that dress.
She just was classy. I thought everything about her was classy. When she talked, she was classy. When she, even as she's talking about sex, she sounded classy.
She really did.
And
she would make a fantastic, I guess I want to say educator going around and talking about it, but not making it sound graphic and not making it sound dirty. Yeah. She would be the choice for that.
This is, it's interesting. So in the first episode, we talked about how the two guys made everything a little icky in their...
They were slightly creepy when they were,
This episode, and this is when I really started to appreciate it, is I loved how matter-of-fact these women were. Like, people have sex. We all know they have sex. If they didn't have sex, folks...
We wouldn't have any... there would be no people.
There'd be no people. So we kind of have to have sex. So it's normal. And if God didn't want us to enjoy this stuff, he wouldn't have made orgasms. That's my theory on this. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Go for it.
And I just loved how they talked about sex like it's normal. That's always been my viewpoint. Like, people have sex. Let's make it normal to talk about it. It's not gross. It's not dirty.
Well, beg to disagree. Some of it's gross.
I think you like what you like.
I'm going off on the I don't like bodily fluids part.
Yeah, well, I listen, it's messy. It's absolutely messy. I've had some great conversations with a bunch of women about, for those of us who are in long-term relationships with guys who are fluid bound, how do we deal with that wet spot situation and all that bodily fluids? And that's the point, to be able to have that conversation and it be normal.
With a liberator blanket.
Yeah. That doesn't help it with it dripping down your legs and how sticky your legs get when it dries. Okay? But then they went on to talk about the difficulties in their family accepting what they do, which that I can really respect. So this is the episode where I went, okay, this is fascinating. Now I'm interested. And then we went into episode 3 where now we talk to the male actors in this. And I got teary-eyed in this episode at one point.
Really?
When the guy talked about his son, and his son had an assignment at school to write about what your dad does for a living.
Wait, which one was this? Which guy? The director?
No.
The actor?
The actor.
Okay.
Not
the younger one.
This is I think technically the younger one, though we didn't necessarily look at. The first actor on the left was
the blonde.
Shimiken, who's famous apparently in this because
for several reasons.
Right. He's had 25 years of experience. He's been doing this probably since he was 18.
Yes.
So you guys do the math. Don't make me math. He's done the most films ever of over 11,000 titles.
And he's won multiple awards.
I don't remember the name of the other guy, but that's the one who was saying that he had hold on, I did write it down. Let's see if I can pronounce this. It's Itziu, Ittisu. Itziu.
Well, I want to go back and explain a couple of things about these dudes. The first one, the more prolific one, the one that's been doing it for 25 years, specializes in AVs for men, is what he said. And then who I took to be the younger one specializes in AVs for women.
And the rules between the two were
I thought that was so cool. I was like, wait a minute, what's the fucking difference? And then, of course, the first question was, what's the difference?
It's like, yay.
So the AVs for men, this is what they said, are for men, it is to arouse sexual desire. For women, it is to get the butterflies in the stomach.
Yes, I love that.
I was like, okay, not how I would have pictured that, but yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Right? They talked about how for the one for women, the focus is on the relationship. They don't do any crazy sex positions. And this is my favorite. They always make sure to show the man putting on a condom.
Safety.
Right? And I love that there's a whole genre of specifically
porn for women.
Porn for women. Now, here's the difference, right? So we talked about how in the other one, they had 100 women a month who auditioned. These guys talked about the fact that there's only 70 AV actors total.
Well, I think it's because when they actually got into the requirements to be an AV actor. And then when you get into that other guy's like qualifications, you can seriously tell why he has done as much porn as he has. It's hard. The requirements,
no pun intended.
Right. Well, one of them is to actually remain hard, which is harder than it sounds. Haha. But you have to be able to have sex literally anywhere. He said he's had it in sub-zero temperatures on a rock.
Mm-hmm. I love when they talked about all of that. So,
oh my God, and the aiming part. He apparently has, this is, okay. So the younger guy was at the one who does the porn for women was talking about the other one, saying, this is why I'm so impressed with this guy. This is why he has done as many porns as he has, because he can aim his ejaculate.
Oh, he talked about like the W?
He can draw with it.
I love the fact that they admitted you do not want semen in the eyes. Ouch. Sorry, I yelled at you people. I didn't mean to yell at you people.
They specifically said he is so good because sometimes they're required to come on the actress's face, but you don't want to get in the eyes. And this guy can aim and do it on both cheeks, and that's it. I was like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some dudes who can't aim when they pee. This guy can aim, can do the conscious effort of aiming while he's orgasming.
That's impressive. And that's what they were saying about him. That's impressive.
And apparently the fact that he can come anytime, anywhere, on command. This dude is amazing.
I want to be like that. I want to come on demand.
Well, yeah, you can probably train yourself into doing that.
Yeah. So they talked about that there are 26,000 to 30,000 titles released each year. That is
batshit.
First of all, how do we access that?
Right? Seriously?
So I have to tell you, I have watched, I'm assuming these are Japanese ones. They're usually blurred out in the important sections.
The pixelations.
The pixelations and all the good stuff.
Isn't there a card in Cards Against Humanity called Pixelated Bukkake?
Oh, is there?
I think there is.
Oh my God. Goodness gracious. So they talked about how they find the actors first because it's not easy to schedule because you've only got 70.
Yeah, no, those are the rare ones.
Right? Versus the women. And that they don't stick around for long because it's really difficult work. I love the whole discussion about what happens if the penis goes flaccid.
Yeah. And oh my God, I felt so bad because they immediately turned to the kid in this. I say kid because he looks young. But the one in the center going, yeah, he's experienced that a lot of times. And this poor dude had to sit there and explain it.
Oh my God. I love how they called it the erection standby.
and then the one guy gets on the floor in a kneeling position and starts like, fake jacking and trying to get it back up. And everybody's like, yeah. So the other guy that we haven't talked about at all yet was a director.
Yeah.
And they said usually when the penis goes flaccid and the actor has to put himself back together, everybody kind of like turns and gives him privacy. Really? For that part. For that you turn and give him privacy.
Yes.
Okay.
That part. So they then went in to talk about how they got started in this. Now, Shimikin said that he had unusual sexual fixations and felt he had to hide them. But they never really talked about what it was because when he did explain what it was, it sounded like a woman's beep. I'm like, you guys have been talking about erections
and
aiming your cum in a certain direction, but you can't talk about what he was into?
Ass. I mean, there's got to be certain words that you can't say, right? Because there's the 7 words that you can't say on the radio here.
But that's here.
And this was on a damn Netflix documentary. So what the hell did they bleep out?
Right? Like, what could possibly have been too much?
Vulva?
I don't know.
Anyway.
That's what blew my mind. He said he rented his first AV at 15.
Makes sense.
And it acknowledged his hidden fixations, and he felt that was where he needed to belong. That was his world.
Maybe it was woman's orgasm?
I don't know. So at 18, he sent out his resume to 30 AV companies. Only one replied, and he went to work for them. And the rest, as they say, is history.
And now he's like the most prolific AV actor that they have.
Right. The funny thing was the next guy, Itzy Sue, whatever, that he studied law, but then didn't pass the test.
Was it law or was he the accountant?
No, law.
Okay.
And he didn't pass the test, so he considered other options.
And you went with porn.
Well, here he saw an ad for, and I'm going to destroy the name, so no hate, Shiri Dudadya.
Wow.
I don't. And he got the job. Now, basically what that one is, I love the description, and they were explaining how it all works. You don't directly have sex with an actress. You just provide your semen as an extra.
Yeah.
Such as ejaculating on the woman. And that there's a hierarchy of the men's. So you have the ones who are that position where they do the extra. Then they have the ones who are like in the middle, where you stand close to the scene.
Just backup
jacking
actors.
off. And then you've got the main characters who actually get to have the sex.
So is it like they just need extra cum?
Maybe.
Why can't they just use fake cum?
I don't know. But they talked about how if you do a good job, like produce a large volume, or you ejaculate on command, you get recognized and you move up the corporate ladder. And that how it's very much a competition in this hierarchy. And you've got the lower classes, who are the guys who have to stand in the back, the middles who stand close, who try to block you from seeing what's happening.
Oh my God,
so
and then they acted that part out.
And they acted that, yeah. Then we went on to the director and how he got into it. He failed to get into college. He happened to buy a collection of magazine interviews with AV actresses. And that prior to that, he had a very negative view of AVs, but he was so impressed by the actresses' pride and how hard they worked and their determination to do the job well, that it made him want to support them. And I kind of understand that, because seeing the interview in episode 2 with the 3 women, they did have a lot of pride and in their work and wanted to do right by it. So he's one, his parents were strongly opposed. And when he got into it, he was so young that the director made him get his parents' consent before working, even though he was over 18. And it took 6 months to get the signatures. I love this. He asked his neighbors
for help,
to help him convince his parents it was okay. And his parents still don't like that he does this, but they acknowledge his hard work.
Well, so I still think one of them was actually supposed to be an accountant, not a lawyer, because he said later something about, I'm not good with numbers. And then the guy was like, really? You're not good with numbers and you were going to be an accountant?
Maybe that's the director.
One of them.
Right. And then they went in to talk about the difficulties they faced in acceptance from family and friends. Right. So the director talked about how he, his parents didn't really agree with it. Itzy Sue says he keeps it a secret. And that when his child had to write about his dad's occupation, he panicked and in the end told his son that he was a cameraman. And he even got teary-eyed as he's sharing the story. I mean, this has got to be...
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Hard. But then they talked about the fact, this is on Netflix and this is going to be broadcast.
Well, hopefully his kid is too young to watch it.
But then we got into the fun of Shamika talking about the actual difficulties in the filming, how you're asked to perform under any circumstances, how the struggles with the cold.
Well, yeah.
Because you're going outside. He talked once about how they were asked to skydive right after ejaculating.
Yeah. And he was just like, yeah, how the fuck is that even possible? And the director goes, well, you did it.
Yeah. They also talked about, for instance, like you got the AC has to be turned off in the summer.
Because of the
noise. So you're dealing with the hot, you're dealing with the cold, and you're still expecting. They did a whole long talk about having to maintain your erection the whole time and all of that. So that was interesting. The director talked about how what he does from his end. He creates a concept draft, turns it into a screenplay. The assistant director prepares the costumes, the props, and the venues. The directors then actually edit themselves. They talked. Did you remember about the erection lunchbox?
No, I might have skipped over that part.
Yeah, and he showed, Shimikin brought out he calls it an erection lunchbox, and it's actually just foods that he eats to maintain his physical health so he can maintain erections.
Huh.
They are not allowed to talk to actresses outside of the scene because they're worried if they develop romantic feelings, it will get in the way of work, and that if you try to contact the actresses, you might actually get kicked out of the industry.
I kind of like that.
So that was pretty much that one. Then we get into episode 4. And I will admit, 4 and 5 and 6, I kind of ran through it. So we're probably going to run through it. 5 was fascinating to me, but 4 was basically they went to this company called Tenga, which makes masturbation toys.
The company's purpose is to make masturbation not in the shadows anymore and get rid of the stigma.
Yeah. And they sold 126 million units around the world
of their biggest, what do you call that? Flagship item?
Maybe.
I think that's what that's called.
Yeah. And they did demonstrate at one point how the whole thing worked. And it was the sound that it made. I couldn't help it. The sounds.
It was a slurpy noise.
It's that wet sound.
Well, it's basically a fleshlight in a can.
Yeah. But that
oh my God.
I hate to use the term moist.
They started playing with the lotion that was in there.
Yeah.
I was like, seriously. They were so immature. There was much better ways to handle this.
So that went by. Then they talked to different people who worked for the company, including the manager of research and development.
Who was the one that has tried 6,000 toys.
Yeah. And
I like the part where they were actually talking to one of the designers and they showed the actual computer program where he was designing dildos.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I did. And it was interesting because it was kind of an embarrassing question, but I was also fascinated by it, where they point blank asked if toys made for USA and Europe were bigger than the toys made for Asian markets. And they basically were like,
no.
Oh, see, I got the impression he was saying yes, that they...
He said yes, that originally they did, but then the research and development guy basically said, but we didn't sell as many as we thought we would.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the director of Tenga Healthcare, who was the winner of the International Masturbation-a-thon.
Okay.
Where, ready, he masturbated nonstop for 9 hours and 58 minutes.
No, thank you.
And I love the guys were fascinated by this. It was very interesting, the way they talked. They were very misogynistic in this series with the way they talked to the women versus the men. And I understand their fascination with how.
Okay, well, can I point something out?
Please. That's why we're here.
They're Korean men.
Yeah.
So yes, misogyny is strong in Korea because if it wasn't, the 4B movement wouldn't be taking effect over there. You know what that one is?
I do not know that one.
Really? Okay. The women in Korea are so fucking pissed off and over the misogyny that they have stopped dating, sleeping with, having children with, or marrying men.
Go girls.
And it's called 4B because in Korean, I don't remember what the Korean language, all 4 of those words start with B.
Uh-huh.
So 4B. But it's causing a population crisis and the women are like, fuck you, don't care.
Fix it. There's an easy way for you to fix that, people.
So this kind of tracks that these 2 men from Korea are obscenely misogynistic.
But I was curious, how the hell do you masturbate for that long? Doesn't your dick get dry and bruised? And the answer is pretty much yes.
I would fucking, I would die. That would hurt.
Yeah. And he didn't disagree. And I love they were saying, he's like, there's no monetary prize. It's just, pride.
Yeah,
saying,
no,
okay.
no, thank you.
Of course, which will come as no shock to most people. The contest is held in San Francisco.
That figures.
But this to me, this episode was like, whatever. We've already covered a lot with the toys in episode 1.
I did like the interview with the CEO, though.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very specific about why he wanted to create this company. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. He wanted sexual desire should not be considered vulgar, inappropriate, or embarrassing.
No,
and
I
am
loved that.
with him 100%.
That's kind of why this was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah. See, now for me, number 5 was I was fascinated because this was something very, very specific to Japan. And it was something that really made me go, And the episode was entitled, I'm going to blow the names again. Kabukicho, hosts, and Roland. You try it. Go ahead.
Nope.
As you're laughing at me.
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. And it's all about the host clubs. And the way they described it is hosts are idol stars that you can meet. So normally you have like your stars who are out of reach to everyday fans. But at these host clubs, you get to meet them and you pay to meet them. And so they're within reach. And then these guys started talking about the numbers. And then there's alcohol involved. So you pay to meet them. You buy drinks to spend time with them. There's no sex. This is not sex. This is literally just the opportunity to hang with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the two guys that they talked to were just adorable. I mean, they look so young, and they're, again, probably not as young as they looked.
Well, they have those Asian genes where you just stay young even though you're 200 years old.
Yeah. But these guys, like, this was the number 1 ranked host and the number 2 ranked host. The number 2 ranked host last month, 40 million yen in sales.
Which translates.
I know. I asked Google. $265,000.
That is not bad.
Okay. The number 1 was 60 million yen, which translates to $396,000. Last year, the number 1 guy last year in sales, $1,150,000 in sales.
How do we get in on this?
Yeah, right?
You would make an amazing host.
Well, what's interesting is it was only guys, though. Like, they showed the pictures up on the, like, these guys. There's one. They went to this building that was all clubs. Each floor was a different club. This particular club they went to was actually called The Club because I guess it was the club.
Yeah, kind of like how we refer to Crucible as our club because it's one of the only ones around here.
Yeah. This one, so these were the guys who work specifically at The Club. There are 300 host clubs and 10,000 hosts in Japan. And it's an everyday thing. And Roland, who they also spoke to, who's the owner of this particular one, talked about it's because Japanese people highly value their time spent drinking. So they're willing to spend the money to make that experience a good, fun experience. And I was just so fascinated by this because it was so not American.
Yeah, no, I actually did not watch this episode because by this time I was just really motion sick in the beginnings of all of the episodes because the GoPro shit. I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, see, there was no GoPro in this one.
I just couldn't. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I really, this one brought me back in because I found this whole concept of the hosts fascinating. And what's really interesting, so Roland is very famous. Like, he was actually brought on to some regular television shows, which also helped his popularity and helped the club do even more so. But he had a very fascinating attitude of how he chose whose money to accept and who he would hang out with. And I loved his attitude. It wasn't the people with the throwaway money who just wanted to be with Roland so they could say they were with Roland. It was the people who had saved up, who the money meant something to, that it was a special treat that they had worked toward. He's like, those are the people I want to give my attention to. Those are the people I want to hang out with because it means something to them.
Did he just like go out and ask them specifically, like, or how would he know who's who?
Well, what did you do is the hosts walk around and they just kind of casually talk to people. And during the conversation, they would find out, oh, I've been saving up. Like, this has been like 2 months in the process of saving up and putting money aside every day just to be able to do this. Like, he could tell. I mean, come on, you've been around enough people. You can tell who it's the status symbol. I want to be able to say that I was with Roland versus the people who it actually means something really special to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was very fascinating to me. Now, the last episode, I was kind of like, are you kidding me? I found this boring. I don't know, maybe it was late at night. But they sat and they talked with people who, and these were, God, I mean, look, I'm old, so to me they were young. But I got the sense that these were 20-something, early 30-something people who are in the whole dating process. And they talked about the difference of dating in Japan versus other places. Like they did have one woman who went to, I guess, I don't know if they call it college or the equivalent of college in Korea.
University,
right? So they talked about the difference between dating in Korea versus dating in Japan and the openness. Because they actually pointed out that Japan has lower sex crimes than other countries.
I wonder if it's because they're so unbelievably open.
Well, apparently, and I don't remember her saying this, so maybe this happened off camera, but during the episode when they interviewed the three actresses, AV actresses, she's the one who said this, and the comedian just brought it up during this conversation, that she said that it was because of the popularity of AVs.
So like what? They can be used more to get off and people don't need to use other things. I don't know. That's interesting. I think it has to be because it's the same concept of if you have a stronger sex education, you are less likely to get pregnant or get a STD.
Yeah.
But the ones that have less sex education are the ones that usually end up getting all of that. So there's probably a very strong correlation in the openness of it.
Yeah. They brought up a very interesting point that in Japan, women rarely initiate sex, if ever. Like it's always the men have to initiate. They had a couple who'd been together for, I think they said 4 years and went through a period where they really weren't having sex. And the woman talked about she doesn't initiate it. That's not culturally how they do things. And I thought that was fascinating because I could understand how that might have initially been how stuff used to be. I would have thought in more modern times, especially from a country that is so open about women AVs. Like you literally have women AVs.
Japan is one of the countries that has this unbelievably beautifully crafted blend of tradition and modernism, and it just permeates everything in the culture. So it does kind of make sense that there are certain things that are going to still be more traditional than, say, their cities with their huge amounts of robots.
Right.
So architecture even is this really awesome blend between traditional and modern. So again, it does actually make sense.
Right. Then they also talked about, like in Korea, that it is common for the boyfriends to tie their girlfriend's shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were talking about the difference between the two. They did have one of the people that it was like they were just sitting like at a lunch table at a restaurant. One of the people I think was a therapist. And so he talked about the fact that sex is important and talking about sex is important and communication about it is important. And
what was that?
Yeah, communication, right?
No.
So part of the problem with this is it's subtitles. So like you're staring at the screen and I'm trying to take notes. So I have to keep pausing to write my notes down. And I have to would rewind 10 seconds and go back. I mean, I appreciate, and then of course your eyes are getting overwhelmed because they have the English at the top. I'm assuming that was Korean at the bottom because
I don't know. Yeah. But it was a lot of, and also you had the visual stimulation of what they're actually filming.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
It was a lot. I did, as I said, there were points that I was fascinated. The discussions with the stars of the AVs was fascinating to me because it is like the stigma around it. And yet here they are in this industry that's obviously huge where it's normal, but not normal all at the same time.
No, it was a really cool thing. My biggest takeaway was the comedian was not right. It was not a good fit.
Well, as I said, there's others. This was Japan. They do Taiwan and I think Germany.
They should do the Netherlands.
I think there might be a fourth one with the Netherlands. I don't remember all the names. So anyway, if this is something that you think is cool and you'd like us to do more of, please let us know. When I do on Spotify, for those who listen on Spotify, I put a little poll for the first week of listeners to answer a question. And I will definitely be putting in a poll saying, do you want to see more of this? So hopefully, if you've made it to the end and you've listened to the whole thing, please take a second in the poll and answer it for us so we know. Because if you want us to do more of this, I'll make Dar do it.
Wow.
For
Great.
the pod, right? Instead of for science.
For the podcast.
For the podcast.
Oh, crap.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a minute of our fun and educational content. New episodes drop every Friday.
If you love what we do and want to show support, there are several ways. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/pinkkinkpodcast. You can support our affiliates or help spread the word about our kinky podcast to your friends.
Don't forget to rate and review Pink Kink on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Those 5-star reviews go a long way in boosting our podcast through the algorithm and reaching more listeners.
Sign up for our Pink Kink Institute classes. Shop at our Etsy shop, Pink Kink Boutique. Stay connected with us on social media. You'll find all the links on our link tree posted in the show notes.
Your support means the world to us. So until next time, stay pretty, stay safe,
and stay twisted.